This is my Bambu Lab P2S, and this is my Prusa Mini 3D printer. I've had the P2S for several months, and I've had the Mini since the end of 2019, basically when it was released. So I've had this printer for a very long time. It was my main printer for a long time until it started having some issues with the power supply. That's why I ended up upgrading over here. But now I am curious. I actually have not done a comparison since getting the Bambu, and I just want to see what the print quality and just sort of the overall experience is like between these two printers. So I'm gonna do a simple benchy test today, but I'm also gonna walk through a little bit of the setup process, especially with the Mini. For the Bambu, it's pretty simple. I have some filament up here in the AMS, and that's it. So it's ready to go. Just need to press print. This one is a little bit more manual when it comes to like loading the filament. So I have some Bambu filament. I'm going to be using the blue filament in the P2S. I'm going to be using this pink filament here, but it's the exact same Bambu PLA, so that way it should be pretty even. So the Prusa does have this little display, which I really love, and prior to this, I had the Prusa MK2, which was a great printer, but a little more primitive in terms of interface. And so this is actually pretty nice, but it's still a bit manual as I go to load in some filament. We're going to do PLA. It's going to heat everything for PLA. So it's going to heat up, and then it's going to feed the filament through, purge any existing filament that's stuck in there, and then should work good and we're ready to print. For the Bambu, as you probably know, I can print from an attached drive, or I can just print from remotely, like with my phone or with a computer or a tablet or whatever. That's normally what I do. With the Prusa, I need to use an attached flash drive, at least with the setup that I have here. And here you can kind of see it extruded some filament that was sort of a different color, whatever I had in here before, and then it went to the pink. If I want to make sure that it is super fed in here and ready to go, I can run the color one more time by selecting no, and then it's going to just push a little more filament through here. In the time that I've had the Mini, which has been quite a few years, I've had really good luck with the print quality, but it's always a little bit fussy. I've had issues with bed adhesion. I do have the textured build plate, which is similar to the one that's in the Bambu, but I've literally never been able to get it to work on this printer. I don't know, something with temperatures or the fact that it's not enclosed, I'm not sure. So I've just been using the standard build plate, which works pretty well, but sometimes I do have bed adhesion issues, and so I've kind of found that running a lot of prints at 85% speed has helped, or at least 85% until it seems like everything is solid, and then going back up to 100%, and then it kind of works there. Just kind of little quirks like that. I've never been comfortable leaving this printer really unattended, so I'd never let it go overnight. I never let it go when we're not home or anything like that. I'm much more comfortable doing that kind of thing with the Bambu because it has all kinds of remote monitoring and sort of like self-redundancies to, you know, stop if there are any problems and not just break itself or be super dangerous. So this one, especially because it has had some issues with the power supply, which is why I got this printer, I never leave this one unattended. So that's also why I'm just doing benchies today, so it's a relatively short print. It's currently saying that the benchy is going to take 1 hour and 56 minutes. So I'm gonna start this print, let it do its thing. And with the Bambu, I'm just going to go into the menu, and it already has a benchy installed when you get the printer, so I'm just gonna print that one again. I've done it a few times on here, and we're going to select the blue version of the filament and print. Now this has an estimated print time of 23 minutes. So these two printers are going to take very different amounts of time to print the same thing. 23 minutes versus almost 2 hours. So we'll see how long that actually takes. Well, the timers don't lie because it has been 1 hour and 44 minutes with the Mini, and there's still about 13 minutes left. The Bambu finished after 23 minutes, so I have its benchy here. I figured we kind of talk about that. Then this should be done. Then we can compare them and see for funsies. I didn't mention the price between these two printers, and this is also a very interesting thing with how far 3D printing has come even in just the past few years. The Prusa Mini, when this came out, a big thing about it was that it was a really affordable, high quality 3D printer. Prusa printers are great. Like, I know I've discovered and love the Bambu verse over here, which is, I love it. But Prusa printers are fantastic, and the things that Prusa has done over the years for the 3D printing community have also been like amazing. This printer had an MSRP of $349 when it was released, which was a pretty darn good price. I had my first monoprice printer, which was like about $200, and then my Prusa MK2S was way more expensive, closer $800-ish, $900. I got the assembled one. So this being $349 was super inexpensive. I haven't needed to get anything else with it other than filament. The Bambu, though, this is where it's kind of crazy. The printer itself for just the P2S is $549, so $200 more than this. Actually, the Bambu P1S, the predecessor to this one, is currently $399 for just the printer, so $50 more than the Prusa. That's pretty crazy that you can get that for that price. The P2S with the AMS, the combo here was $800 when I got mine. So the printer by itself could be $549, but then you add in the AMS and it's a couple $100 more. I think the AMS is totally worth it. That is still, this is about the same price altogether as my Prusa MK2S was. Here is the Benchy from the Bambu P2S, the 23-minute Benchy. Done a few Benchies with this one now, and they've all come out great. Kind of no exception here. This is, a high quality Benchy. There is one weird thing on this one. I don't know if you can see these lines on this side here. There's sort of like these couple of lines on the hull, and I don't know what the deal is with those, but that's really like the only imperfection, and just the overall quality being pretty awesome. And again, for 23 minutes, it's crazy when you watch something like this on the Bambu, because yeah, you can do the time lapse where you can see it all happen quickly, but when you're just watching this, you can literally see it being made in front of your eyes quickly. It is just insane how fast this printer is. But of course, that's not to say the Prusa is a slouch or anything. It does a great job at printing. So let's let this finish and then we'll see how they compare to each other. All right, we are finished with 1 hour and 57 minutes as the total print time. And it looks pretty good. Popped off nice and easily there from the build plate. So again, the pink Benchy is the Prusa and the blue Benchy is the Bambu. The Bambu, oh, I did that on purpose. P for pink for Prusa, B for blue for Bambu. That was totally intentional. Now without my hands totally getting in the way, we can kind of see, I would say these are pretty darn even. You might be able to see some more layer lines in the Prusa. I think definitely along the hull. Although on the Bambu, I still don't know what happened with those, like it almost has like a racing stripe down the middle there with those two. We have a few uneven lines on the pink Benchy, but nothing that, I don't know, it's never done that before, so I don't know what that's about. If we look at the bottom, you can see the Bambu definitely is easier to read and a better texture than the build plate I was using on the Prusa. Now looking at the roofs and the deck of the ships, I think you can see, I mean, the Prusa looks quite smooth, especially on the deck of the ship, but I like the evenness of the Bambu a bit more there. Now trying to look in at the steering wheels and stuff, you can see both of them, exist. They did a pretty decent job. If we look at the bow, again, you can see both look pretty good, but I just like the way that the Bambu did it a little bit more. And like the holes at the front of the bow. I think it's probably pretty safe to say that the Bambu's print quality is a little bit better, but they are super close. And then when you consider that the Prusa is a 7-year-old 3D printer and a much more, primitive, simple version compared to the Bambu, the fact that they are so close is pretty impressive. So this is still quite a good printer, which makes me happy. That's kind of what I was expecting. When I compared it to the Monoprice, I expected to sort of be, there's a huge gap, but comparing the Bambu to a Prusa, even an older Prusa, I think still holds up incredibly well. Oops. But those quality of life features, the reliability of the Bambu, the fact that I just never have to tinker with this, versus I kind of have had to tinker with this and take it apart and fix things many times over the years, and it prints slower, because that's the other thing too. This print quality is great, but when you remember 2 hours versus 23 minutes, that's a pretty big difference. And then a thing, it's not a fault of this printer, but being a mini, it is a smaller build plate and build volume. I can't get mad at it for that. It is literally called a mini. Can't get mad for it being mini, but having the extra build volume of the P2S has been absolutely fantastic. And this is kind of, at least for me, an ideal size. It's significantly bigger than the Prusa, but it's kind of like the perfect practical size for printing pretty much anything that you need without feeling like you're dealing with limitations. So again, I don't know what the science really is here, but I thought it would just be a really fun comparison, older printer, new printer, Prusa versus Bambu. If you have any thoughts on that or experience comparing similar different printers, or ways, maybe better ways to compare printers, I'd love to hear that.